Well, hey there, folks. Chris McLean back with yet another episode. And in the studio today, I have Daniel Snow, and he's the CEO and founder of the Snow Agency. They're a performance and social media marketing agency that's disrupting the e-commerce landscape for DTC brands. Daniel's a proven expert, having launched and scaled numerous viral e-com brands himself over the course of 3.5 years, generating over $50 million in revenue without ever receiving funding or a loan. This entrepreneurial foundation is what inspired Daniel to launch the Snow Agency. On else to do, Daniel's also the founder of Rap TV. It's a passion project for him, and this is the largest hip hop community in the world. Rap TV's reached viral status with over 13 million followers across owned channels and generating 250 impressions a week on social media alone. Daniel, very impressive. Lots going on for you, mate. Thank you so much for swinging by.
Thank you for having me. And yeah, Rap TV is now over 25 million, so it's grown quite a lot since I wrote the bio.
Since that little bio, wow. Just as not a bad side hustle, mate. That's just something to fill the days. But agency, just to throw that in too. So take us through the Snow Agency. Take us back. Is this your first run at an agency? Have you had it? Obviously you said you've had a few e-com brands sort of over your time as well. Did you start in the e-com, sort of doing e-com, practicing e-com, and then you leverage that knowledge into an agency to help other e-com brands? Is that how it worked, or is there another story there?
Yeah, exactly. So before the agency, I was running a portfolio of brands that I owned and operated alongside my brother and another partner. And after running those brands for 3.5 years, we sold the company in it as companies, most notably the Perfect Sculpt, Goat Case, Manscaped King, and a few others. And we decided we wanted to focus on the advertising and growth portion of the business, which we enjoyed most anyways. So that's what inspired us to start the agency, and we've been full-time on it for almost coming up on 2 years now. So business has been growing fast, team has been growing. We have a number of really, amazing case studies and success stories with some of our clients. So excited for the agency and what's ahead of us.
Yeah, it sounds like some pretty accelerated growth, sort of over 3.5 years doing those sort of numbers. Is that across what sort of client portfolio is that? So you have sort of larger key accounts, or you have multitudes of sort of smaller to mid-sized accounts? What sort of businesses do you work with? What sort of size and scale of client do you work with?
We work with anyone ranging, from startups to the Unilevers of the world, and in between. So we're very good at growth, and no matter the size, I think we're very good at problem solving. That applies to people that are spending $1 million a month or $0 a month. The $0 a month, hopefully they already have some sort of traction organically and whatnot. We see a lot of people, you'd be surprised, who have traction organically, how to work with influencers, but are not leveraging advertising to its full capability, all the way to, company people who might have raised some money initially and are ready to launch and scale their brand quickly. We have some of those as well. So people come to us to grow. And if we're not growing them, they're most likely not gonna remain with us. Yeah. So we keep that in mind at all times.
So DTC, so direct to consumer, and e-com's quite a specific, skill set. And obviously you've been in the trenches of that industry, having done it yourself. What was it about that, that attracted you specifically to kind of e-com in the first place when you were running your own shops, and then to continue? What is it about that environment? Is it just a passion? Is it the fluidity of it, the agility? What is it about e-com that attracts you so much?
I would say for me, what attracts me so much is, number one, I got into it just because I think it's such a low barrier to entry. You don't need to have huge startup costs. You don't need to have a plethora of experience prior. It's such a low barrier to entry. Anyone can do it, and that's why one of the primaries how I got in was because it seemed like low barrier to entry. Once you start scaling, you can build your moat and all this other things. So I think that's why it's such an interesting space right now, and that's how it's grown so fast. That's how Shopify is growing so fast. More and more people, mom and pop stores, and other people are just looking to start their online career. You can do that now. So
yeah, is Shopify the platform that you sort of started out with? Do you work generally with sort of Shopify and sort of Amazon brands, or are you sort of across independents and self-owned platforms as well, or do you tend to gravitate to those sort of bigger platforms? Because as I understand, there's quite a distinct difference between, I guess, the flexibility of if I've just got my own website that's got an eComm platform on it versus managing something on Shopify. There's different rules and regulations, I guess, with how flexible you can be in growing those. Do you tend to work with one or the other, or it's just sort of whatever somebody has, you're able to go in and sort of tinker and grow?
Really, we try to push people to Shopify, but if they want to stick with what they have, we're not going to not sign a client. If they want to stick to Wix or whatever they're using. So that being said, I think Shopify is by far the best platform for growing an online brand today, especially after seeing the behind the scenes of some of the others. But yeah, it's a lot easier to navigate Shopify, that's for sure.
And obviously they're a massive platform, so there's, I guess, sort of inbuilt tech support, and it's the interface and getting, as you said, the barrier to entry is probably a lot lower with something like Shopify, where it's almost having to build up a WooCommerce shop from scratch. So it's that low barrier to entry. We sort of see that similarly in digital marketing generally, that it's kind of easy to get started with this stuff, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's easy to grow or to sort of create a sustainable business. So how do you think you've been able to grow so quickly across so many different brands, but also what is that skill set for you? How do you look at an eComm platform? So I guess what sort of levers are you looking at to grow a business? And
yeah, I think that the number one most important thing for eComm and beyond is really creative. So what we look at is number one, does the client have strong creative capabilities before signing with us? If they don't, then what are their capabilities of getting there? If they still don't have that, what can we do to supplement that? We have a creative studio, we can help. Are they willing to invest in that? Are they willing to make a hire so that they can work with us and getting us consistent creative? So it's really just under like being transparent with the client about that. But creative is the most important thing right now. And when I say creative, video assets, photo assets, etc., because you can't get great performance without great creative. People want to buy stuff from a video. From you have to persuade them to get it. You have the best audience targeting in the world, the best audience selection, the best budgeting, bidding. None of it matters if your creative is enticing for the consumer. And as you can see, you're at times reliant on clients to give you certain things if they're not willing to invest in it for us to potentially shoot the creative, etc., for them. So that's number one. Number two is just so there's the creative portion. You have to get them to the website as low as cost as possible. Then once they're on the website, how do you convert them to a customer as high as a rate as possible? So really, those are the two main levers: is creative and on-site experience.
So you're talking to sort of overall user experience in terms of creative and design and the website as a whole, or specifically sort of into the creative of the
on-site
listings?
On-site experience would be all of those things, and trying to improve conversion rate or an average order value, etc. Because if you're making your earnings per visitor as high as possible, and if you're having great creative on the ad side, that would in turn potentially decrease the cost per click. So you're decreasing cost per click, increasing revenue per user. That's what creates that high return on ad spend and scalability for any brand.
I know this is one of these kind of questions that's dependent on obviously the type of brand and what's being sold. But do you see more lifestyle type imagery and lifestyle video, that sort of classic Nike style, video, versus like here's the cup and here it is in 3D and this is what it does and here's the functions? Obviously, if you're selling a water bottle, right, you want to show more of the features. If you're selling leggings, let's say, maybe it's more about the lifestyle. But do you find one or the other, or does it sort of a good combination in terms of either sort of that lifestyle, that classic Nike, Reebok sort of sports, big brand style, tribal lifestyle type content versus here's the thing and here's the features and here's the benefits?
I found that more often than not, lifestyle video does not work very well. Lifestyle photo can work if you're doing proper text overlays on it.
Right.
The video, what works really well is direct response video. You're calling to action functionalities, presenting all the unique value propositions, implementing all the proper aspects of video to try and get that direct response. So you do a hook, unique value propositions, challenges, discussing reasons why people potentially might not want to buy it. So if you're addressing those, it makes the buyer journey a lot easier and smoother. Versus just like showing it out, people wearing it, like that doesn't resonate and that doesn't cut through the noise as much as you might think when you're scrolling through your timeline. So yeah.
And is that both sort of, I guess, on the listing and on the is there distinctions between obviously the listing where I'm in a different kind of buying mode or if I'm out, maybe what, like saying that, what are the features, what are the benefits, what's the cost, what are the colors, that kind of thing comes into consideration more so at that stage than say in my news feed in the sort of the ad creative part. Is there a distinction there for you, or are you sort of using similar assets and find that sort of that same sort of format works both on the sort of the ad component and the listing component, or is there a distinction there?
It's once you're on the website, it can be more like lifestyle related things. It's more so on the actual advertisements itself, where like you need to, once again, it's cutting through the noise. So once they're on the website, then you can have some lifestyle imagery,
right,
video, photo, this and that, because then you're now trying to sell it. You have their attention. So it's hard to capture people's attention, I found, through just lifestyle kind of photo and video on the actual ad platforms. That's a broad statement, but more often than not, the case.
Yeah, that's interesting to understand those distinctions. And once you've sort of talked a little bit about that sort of conversion rate optimization, you want to build that lifetime value, you want to get as many purchases per visit as possible. What is the lead when you're testing out what's going to work best for a listing? And so sort of talked a bit about the creative. What other aspects of a listing, other than basic stuff like sizing and price and that sort of thing, what other levers are you sort of looking at to grow something like a Shopify store from a conversion perspective?
You mentioned a little lifetime value. So nowadays, especially if it's a brand, like it's tough to build a sustainable business long term without customers returning. If you have to constantly focus on the next customer, it really is tough to have built a sustainable brand. So having a product or brand with subscription component is essential, in my opinion.
Okay.
Because once again, if you have to focus on just constantly churning through new customers, it's just eventually the growth's you're going to decline and costs go up, etc. So trying to get customers that opting into subscription is arguably one of the most important things for building a sustainable brand, in my opinion, today. If they're not in subscription, trying to increase that lifetime value through the best user experience possible, through proper email marketing, SMS marketing, storytelling, etc.
So you talk about subscription for a brand or a service. How do you build in that subscription model to her? to eComm. It's an interesting idea.
Yeah, not every product can do subscriptions. That's number one. You know, if you're selling like, I don't know, typically not something that's consumable. It's hard to get it on subscription. So it's typically relevant for consumable products, you know, like supplements,
right.
facial, you know, related items, think makeup, skincare, stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah, stuff that has you know that has a
stuff for monthly, weekly basis.
Yeah, exactly. So you can't get every product on it, but that's something to be aware of. It's just like, you know, that's why some products are tough. Some brands, people don't think about that when they're launching a brand. And that's why you have to start scaling through more SKUs, because hopefully you think if you have that customer and they're happy, then you can try to sell them on other products. But some people go into a company not even thinking how they're going to start expanding their product line. Without that consumable portion to it. But that's what I find is where people run into issues.
Yeah, so interesting. So potentially you could also look at a product where you've got, I guess, a consumable part or an add-on to something. So if I had a thing like a water bottle or something that had a filter mechanism in it, right, I might need to upgrade the filter every 3 months or something. That could be a component that you could put on a subscription. So sort of thinking about, here's my core product, but here's sort of an add-on or something that is consumable that I could add on to a subscription sort of service. That could be a way to start thinking about it. Do you bring that sort of that strategic lens to your customers as well, where you're sort of helping them decide what to do?
Absolutely, yeah. We're not just involved in the ad buying, the button pushing, as I call it. You know, because if they're not having those strategic thoughts, then we can't do our jobs as best as possible. The brand can't grow. So we're incentivized for the brand to grow, and we get involved in conversations like that with our clients. So absolutely.
I guess you've obviously got that you've got that expertise because you've done it yourself. So it must give them some comfort that you know what you're talking about. They take your advice seriously.
Exactly.
So take us through. I'm interested to hear about this side hustle, Rap TV. I mean, you're into rap and that's sort of your bag. And how did that all come about? Was it you just kind of needed something else to fill some hours in the day, or just you say it's a passion project? How did that come about?
Yeah, so before I even got into eComm, I got my start on digital marketing through growing these large online properties. So it was always kind of like something I had in the background, and identified as a huge opportunity in the sense that like rap was blowing up. There was no one centralizing all the news, but fans wanted that news in a centralized location. So I built it, built a team to manage it. And the last 2 years, it started really blowing up. All the rappers started engaging in it, sharing content, record labels, advertising to get in front of our audience for their artists and talent and songs and whatnot. And yeah, that was kind of how it got started. It was just like I identified the opportunity and knew how to grow the audience.
Yeah, well, it sounds like it's one of these things that are, in the Wild West. It wasn't necessarily the miners that were out making the money. It was the guys selling the picks and the shovels. So if you, in that essence, you sort of own the platform and you own the attention space, right? You can sort of that media channel to attract all of the best talent. So what is Rap TV? Is it do you consider it sort of a media channel or a?
I consider it a media company. We have large presences on all the major social media platforms now: Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Snapchat, our website, SMS, email, newsletter, YouTube. So yeah, we're trying to keep top of mind on all the various platforms.
Yeah, interesting. And was there a similarity in skill set between those two sort of businesses, or are they completely distinct things that kind of keep you?
Completely different, which is why it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's amazing to have that sort of that passion business to tap into, sort of on the side. But it's barely a side hustle. It sounds like it's a significant investment of time and energy as well. but very, very distinct. I mentioned that. How do you sort of structure your time to sort of switch between those two modalities? Because they do sound like quite distinct sort of businesses.
Yeah, my time is mainly spent on the agency. I have someone I've hired to manage operations at Rap TV, and I'm more so providing vision and high level strategy to the team. And they've become very good at executing day to day. So that's kind of how I divvy my time.
Amazing. In terms of what's next for you, you've obviously got your hands at least a bit full with what you're doing now, and the agency is going sort of gangbusters. But what's the next 12 months look like? What's the next sort of 3 to 5 years look like for you, growth wise?
The next 12 months for us is really starting to grow out our studio at the agency, creative studio, and offer. And I want to, creative, as I mentioned, is the biggest need for all brands and services.
Yeah, right.
So I want to be that go-to creative agency that can, if you already have your internal media buying team, be able to produce content at scale for any type of client. So that's a big focus of mine, as well as starting to really tap into marketplace management on Amazon, Walmart, etc. Once again, it's hard to always rely 100% on the ad buying, and if you're not your brand doesn't have a presence in as many places as possible where your customers are, you're losing eyeballs, you're losing potential revenues, etc. So we want to help our clients be as omni-channel as possible.
Right. So you look at if my Shopify store, how can I expand that into sort of Amazon FBA? How can I build that into? You mentioned Walmart. Was that Walmart?
Yeah, Amazon, Walmart, etc.
Okay. Well, yeah, I didn't realize that Walmart had that sort of open eComm platform.
Yeah.
It's not a brand that we have here in Australia, obviously, but I didn't recognize that they had that. Is it similar to like an FBA, an Amazon FBA sort of model?
Yeah, exactly. But you don't need to fulfill with Walmart. I think they have that ability now, but yeah.
Okay. And is there any sort of up and coming new platforms that you've seen, or is it really just going to stick with your Amazons and your Shopifys? Are there any interesting sort of new players coming into the market that you could see becoming interesting for people to start looking at?
Other than Amazon, I mean, Etsy is another great one.
Etsy, yeah.
Other than Etsy, no, I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
That Amazon sort of space, because Etsy's always been quite crafty, from my understanding. Like it's sort of more of that craft and jewelry and sort of custom fashion, that sort of thing. Is that platform moving into more like sports goods and that sort of more consumable goods, or is it? It seems like it's quite a different sort of market and audience on Etsy than like an Amazon.
No, yeah, it still has that, but like if your product is applicable, it's great to have a presence there.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, it's an interesting platform. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if somebody can come up and start to compete. But obviously, Amazon's got so many eyeballs, and something like a Shopify makes it so easy to build out a presence. If I want to get started in the space and I'm not looking at Shopify, I'm not looking at Amazon FBA, I'm looking at like a Wix or a WordPress type setup just to get going. Is that something you'd recommend, or would you recommend just going? Is a WooCommerce and WordPress kind of setup going to be good enough to get me going, or is it just quicker and easier just to jump into something like a Shopify?
Definitely the quickest and easiest to get on Shopify. The reason why Shopify is so big is because they make it so easy and simple to set up. It's not just for advanced sellers; it's for literally everyone. From you're doing $1 billion a year in revenue to zero. It's so easy to set up. It's easy to see your analytics. It's easy to, everything is so easy. That's why they're so great.
Yeah, and they're pretty customizable these days in terms of, I guess, themes and templates and that kind of stuff. So you can pretty much make it look however you want to make it look. I can remember looking at, I started a Shopify store for some random thing, probably, maybe 10 years ago, maybe not that long ago, maybe about that, maybe maybe about 6-7 years ago, and it was a little bit limited. You had the Shopify theme, and that was about it. But I'm assuming that now you can pretty much custom skin it to whatever your brand is.
Yeah.
Is that the case? Yeah. Awesome, Daniel. Thank you so much for dropping by. If people want to sort of get connected with you, learn more about the space, learn more about Rap TV as well, but come and connect with you, connect with the agency, get you to come and sort of help them look at how they can grow and scale out their e-com platforms. There's a few places up on screen, but where are the best places for people to come and get connected with you?
Yeah. Facebook, LinkedIn, even if you want to email me, dan@thesnowagency.com. Twitter, I'm very active on as well. I am Dan Snow. And yeah, please reach out. Would love to help anyone or just talk e-com. So yeah.
Awesome. And they can find you over at Rap TV. I don't have the URL for that up at the moment, but where can they find you for that if they're into that sort of thing?
Many channels, but our biggest one is on Instagram, just @rap, RAP.
Oh, wow. That's a pretty cool handle.
Yeah.
I was surprised that was available. That's very cool.
Cool. Well, thank you for having me, Chris. Hopefully drop some knowledge for your customers, and yeah.
Been a pleasure, man. It's been quite very insightful. Ecom's a super interesting place, really interesting space, and obviously, so over the last 18 months or so, a lot of people have sort of had to start figuring this ecom stuff out. So it's definitely a space that a lot of people are just having to move into, and it's good to know there's good people out there that can really lend expertise to help people get started quickly and get scaling and growing. So yeah, appreciate you dropping by, taking the time.
Take care. Thanks again for having me.
Thanks for tuning in. Catch you on the next episode.
Right.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thanks, Dan.